All right, guys, so an interesting argument that I hear all the time that I've heard forever, it's the age-old argument, and that is how underpowered and anemic the 5.56 or the 223 is. And the interesting thing is most of the people that argue it are talking about that from a military perspective. They're utilizing the military stories to justify their opinion on that. So you always hear the story about the enemy soldier that's hit like a dozen times with a 5.56 and still keeps coming. And those stories are true. They do happen. The thing is, you have to put those stories into a perspective or into a context in order for it to make sense, and not just make a blanket statement about a 5.56 based on one application of it. So we have the M193 here, and we have the 855 here. This is a 62 grain full metal jacket, and this is a 55 grain full metal jacket. This is our current issued round. This is what our soldiers are currently using, the 855. And both of those rounds rely pretty much solely on velocity in order for them to reliably perform terminally. So in order for them to fragment and to cause greater wound channels, it has to be in combination with extreme velocities. And that velocity, really the key velocity, is 2,700 feet or greater. So as long as the round's going 2,700 feet or more, it has a high potential of fragmentation, and therefore pretty effective. The problem with that is that we've moved towards the shorter barreled M4 rifles, which is a 14.5 inch barrel. And so we're essentially neutering the velocity that these rounds are capable of out of that 14.5 inch barrel. And by doing so, it really makes the round and the rifle less effective at distances further than really CQB style of fighting. And so that's where you start getting these stories, is you start getting these rounds that are just not opening and are just punching a 5.56 millimeter hole through somebody. And that has less potential of stopping power. And so most of the stories you hear out there, and most of the people that you hear that are moving away from a 5.56 and going into like a 308 battle rifle, is from those stories. But the problem with that is that's a military perspective. From a civilian perspective, okay, we have access to rounds that are much more effective than a full metal jacket. For instance, we have this right here, which is a 50 grain American Eagle varmint tip. So it's essentially a VMAX, a Hornady VMAX with a gray tip on it. And that 50 grain bullet really flies out of the barrel, but it also is designed specifically to fragment, okay? So this little tip right here floats above the lead core, and so when it strikes the target, the ballistic tip is shoved back into the core and actually pretty much fragments the core and causes the core to explode, which causes the round to break up. And so it just dumps its energy into the target, and it has very little likelihood of pass-through. And so if you take a 5.56 with this type of bullet in it, you're going to see much, much greater stopping power from the 5.56 than you would utilizing a full metal jacket. And these will actually be effective at lower velocities as well, so at further ranges. And so if you take a 5.56 and put a civilian perspective on it and utilize expanding style bullets, you elevate the 5.56 up to the 308 range, okay? So from a military's perspective, I would want to have a 308 or a 30 cal over a 5.56 if I was going to be using like an M4, just because you're going to punch a larger hole with more mass behind it than you will with the 5.56, and it becomes more effective. But from a civilian standpoint, I don't think I need to have a battle rifle in 30 cal. I just don't. Because utilizing expanding cartridges, you pretty much elevate the 5.56 to an effective level when it comes to stopping power. The only real advantage that I see that the 30 caliber battle rifles like the FAL and the AR-10s have over the 5.56 from a civilian standpoint is effectiveness at range. So if you want accuracy and you want greater long-range ballistics, there is no doubt in my mind that a 308 is going to outperform the 5.56, period. all day long, always. And so the only advantage I see is going to a .308 battle rifle is long range capability. But for a general overall round, for a general overall purpose, I think the 5.56 is really, from a civilian standpoint, using expanding cartridges, it elevates that to the same level as a .308. So I know there's some of you out there right now that are yelling at the screen, and saying, well, what about the 7.62x39 or other intermediate cartridges? Here we have a 6.5 Grendel, right? Same rules apply. Okay, if you're talking about a full metal jacket perspective only, which is what I'm dubbing the military perspective, is that the 30 cal is going to be more effective than these smaller full metal jackets. So if you're just talking full metal jackets, the bigger diameter bullet you can go, usually the more effective the round is going to be. And I think that the 7.62x39 is no different. However, without getting too off of topic, the 7.62x39 is like got the ballistics of a freight train. It just doesn't really at long range, and so you're even more limited in range than the 5.56 with the 7.62x39. That is solved with the 6.5 Grendel, which has high energy but also a very, very slick bullet, which gives it the same long-range ballistics as a .308. So you've kind of got a stopgap between the 5.56 and the .308 with the 6.5 Grendel. However, the 7.62x39 is a short-range cartridge, really. So again, it's the same rules apply. If you utilize a 7.62 with more modern ammunition, like a 123 grain SST round, which is a hunting load, then it's going to be a lot more effective by far than a 7.62 with a full metal jacket. We are not governed by the Geneva Convention. We can utilize all kinds of different loads. So because of that, you just really negate the necessity of having a .308 or a 30 cal battle rifle, in my opinion. I just don't see the need for going with the larger calibers when you can utilize more effective ammunition. Anyway, I know that this is going to kind of stir the hornet's nest. I know that this is kind of an interesting topic. I love hearing about this kind of stuff. And I know that you guys are going to have opinions out there, and I would really appreciate if you put them in the comment section down below. I want to hear what you guys think about this topic, for sure. I know that there's a lot out there that have strong opinions about the 5.56 and strong opinions about the 7.62x39 and strong opinions about the .308. So let's hear them. And if you guys like this video, hit that like button, okay? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're going to be talking a lot about bullets and a lot about ballistics here in the very near future, especially when we talk about the 6.5 Grendel and other intermediate cartridges. We're going to do a intermediate cartridge rundown video here very shortly. We're talking a lot about their effectiveness. So if you guys want to see those, hit that subscribe button for the updates to it. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks very, very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. See ya.